This show is brought to you by startingstrongman.com. Go to startingstrongman.com for all of your news and information on how to get started and progress in the sport of strongman. For upcoming contests, results, news, articles, training gear, go to store.startingstrongman.com. We have 10% off on all apparel right now. Go to startingstrongman.com/apparel and use the coupon code SAVE10. Go to startingstrongman.com/sponsors to support this show. You can shop through our Amazon banner, our Rogue Fitness, etc. And that really helps out buying more equipment to make this show better and better and keep improving Starting Strongman to provide the information you need. This week, I talked to Nick Best. Nick Best is a well-decorated strength athlete. He's been competing for over 30 years in powerlifting and now strongman, and now both. He's multiple-time World's Strongest Man competitor and finalist. He's also won Masters World's Strongest Man and really had a turnaround year at 47 years old this year where he's just been on a tear. So without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Nick Best. Welcome to Strong Talk Podcast. I am Kalle Beck, joined by Nick Best, multiple-time World's Strongest Man competitor. Yeah, I don't think we have enough time to kind of go through all the accolades that you've had your whole strength career. So I'm just going to let people can Wikipedia you like I did just before this, even though I feel like I kind of already know everything you've done. But you've been to World's Strongest Man, I believe, 7 times. You've made the finals, Arnold Classic, multiple powerlifting championships, and even recently. But what, and something I've seen you say a lot on, on social media and stuff is, there's always the talk of what the sport needs more of to gain popularity. That's always the question that, that every fan and competitor gets frustrated with. And that's one of the things I'm trying to do with this podcast is get some of those interviews out with people such as yourself, and just recently started it back up. So who are you? Like, what's your actual day job? What's a real day in the life of Nick Best look like?
Well, a real day in the life of Nick Best looks at getting up at about 4:45 in the morning, go down, get some coffee, come up, give it to Kalle, go take a shower, come back. Calle's got my breakfast and my lunch done and ready to go. I leave for work. I work at Nevada Beverage, which is a beer distributor here in Las Vegas. We sell Budweiser and Founders and Ninkasi and Joseph James, and we sell just a lot of beer. We're the biggest beer distributor in Las Vegas.
So
I get there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Not only can people appreciate like watching you on World's Strongest Man, you have a big in what they drink while watching it. You have a big hand in that, so they can thank you for that as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a certified Cicerone, or not a certified Cicerone, a certified server through Cicerone. The next level test I'll probably take next year. I just got to get the time to study for it. But I know a lot about beer, which is a great thing. I've taken wine classes for about a year and a half. I've taken liquor classes for about a year. So I know a lot about alcohol, to say the least.
And this involves a lot of tasting as well.
Oh, yes. A lot of sampling while at work. It's a rough part of the job, but you just got to knuckle down and do it, I mean, it's so much fun getting to go to work and sample things and, show the people the difference, between a Saison and a farmhouse, because all Saisons are farmhouse, but not all farmhouse are Saisons. So it's kind of neat, stuff like that.
Yeah, but that starts a little later than 5 in the morning, I'm sure.
Much later, but I get to work. I start working at about 7. Get my guys going, have a meeting, get them out in the trade, selling, doing their things. I go out, I ride with people, coach, teach, help, all day long. Come back, everybody reports back in how their day was. We review things, what we need to do for the next day, what their plans are for the next day, and then they go home, and then I finish up my paperwork and head home about 5:30, 6 o'clock, come in. If it's a Wednesday, I train. So Wednesday I get in. I'll get home about 6:30. Start training about 6:45. Done doing my leg day probably about 9:30. Eat till I can't stand it anymore, and then pass out.
So you said if it's a Wednesday, so how many days a week are you training right now?
3.
3?
Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah, so there's a lot of time in between there, and you're now, you got into strongman later in life. I think you're now what, 47?
36.
Yeah,
I'll be 48 in about 30 days.
So you're like just behind Mark Felix in that regard.
About a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Yeah. So and you've been lifting competitively at a high level since you're a teenager. According to I've had Doug Carroll's told me all about you for years. So,
I've been doing it for a while now.
Yeah.
This is 30. I want to say 33 years that I've been lifting now.
Yeah, that's a long time to be doing anything, let alone running with 1,000, 1,100 pounds on your back and all this stupid stuff that we do, or you do. I have never had 1,100 pounds on my back, but
you could do it. It's just not going to feel real good. But
no,
you can do it.
I'll get even shorter afterwards. I'm good. I'll skip that one.
Yeah.
The 700-ish range is good for me. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm an inch and a half shorter than when I started this sport.
I wonder how that works on the average of just aging, like, with 30 years, how much the average man shrinks compared to that. I don't think it's that much.
I don't know. I'm an inch and a half shorter.
Okay.
I've had 8 compression fractures on my spine. L5 and my sacrum are naturally fused together. There's no space between 5 and 4, 4 and 3. There's a little bit of space between 3 and 2, and a little more space, between 2 and 1. And the same for my upper back too.
Yeah, and that's exactly why you take these long breaks in between training now.
One of the reasons, yeah.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, because how is...
Most guys completely overtrain anyway.
Yeah, which, everyone gets guilty of because training's fun. So you always... It's the weirdest mindset to get into where you feel like if you do less, you're actually doing more. And it's really hard. And so what changed the most, like when you first started in, strongman, 10 or so years ago, how your training was structured then to now? What's the biggest difference?
Well, when I started about 11, 12 years ago in strongman, I was training about 4 to 5 days a week, which is still too much. But it's now I've cut it back to 3 days a week, and even sometimes when I'm really busy, I'll go 2. I think getting ready for Masters World's Strongest Man, I had 5 weeks to get ready between World's Strongest Man and Masters, and 2 of those weeks I only trained 2 days of the week.
Right. So
I'd skip the day just to get extra rest.
Yeah, you're barely getting in just like a little bit over a dozen overall training sessions that whole time. Maybe less than 20 altogether. Yeah, but
right.
there comes a point where a lot of the battle is not being toast when you show up.
Exactly.
Like that's the main thing. Like it's not necessarily when you have like a short break between contests like that to actually improve, but to be able to show up in one piece is if you can do that, you're steps ahead of your competition most of the time.
Right. Because I didn't train the yoke at all getting ready for World's Strongest Man because there's no yoke this year. None. Basically, I got 1 really heavy session with the yoke and then 2 light ones in with the yoke before I got to go to England. That's it. Just 3 sessions. And then I did one heavy one with the frame, I think. Because, you just grab and go. It's pretty much the foot movement's the same between the frame and the yoke. They're basically the same event if you wear straps.
Yeah, sure. If you don't have to worry about that pesky grip strength thing.
If you don't have a grip, you're not a strongman.
No, I agree.
You can be a strongman. It's just you're going to have a bad event.
You're going to have a bad time.
It should be there should be an overhead or an upper body test of strength. There
Mm-hmm.
should be a grip test of strength. There should be a front carrying test of strength somehow, some way in every single contest. A moving event, whether it's yoke or farmers, you have your stones and then your deadlift.
Yeah.
Every contest should be that way.
I agree. That's a good way to structure it. And you'll see sometimes where a contest where it'll have like no deadlift and 2 presses, or there's where like there's 3 grip events, and like you're just like, okay, that's not really a complete test. I mean, strongman in essence can be varied, and it can be anything, but to see, if you're really trying to see who's the strongest person, there needs to be multiple like the standards, like you're saying. And I think people overcomplicate the training for this a lot of the time.
Oh boy!
But because they're worried about every specific event. But if you can categorize, a press, a pull, a carry, a moving event, a load, etc., you kind of put them all in those categories. I found it makes it a lot easier and less overwhelming for someone starting out.
Well, yeah, and if you're off-season training, like you don't have a particular meet or contest coming up that you're doing, and one week you yoke, the next week frame, the next week maybe a farmer's walk, and then rotate them back around.
Yep.
So you're doing your heavy moving events, the deadlift. One day you're doing a side handle deadlift, the next week you're doing a rack pull, the next week you're pulling from the ground, and then just keep that rotating around.
Yeah.
You're always it's gonna be easy no matter what you're doing that way, to when you go to start training for a meet, to move into training for those events. It's not like, God, I haven't done a side handle deadlift in 6 months and now I got 6 weeks to get ready or 8 weeks to get ready. It's like, well, I've been doing this in a rotation for the last 6 months, so I just move into this way. It makes it a lot easier to just work into your training that way.
Yeah, not only
overhead.
Not only will you be ready, it's a little more fun that way too.
Yeah, and you're doing the log one week, an axle the next week, and a dumbbell the following week, maybe a block press. Throw stuff in there and rotate it around. Plus, you don't get overtrained as bad either.
Yeah, you mix it up. It's a great way. So, so how do you structure each one of these days? You say you work out Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday. So like, let's say how an off season is going to look. Like I'm assuming that you kind of rotate things in and out, like you just said. But what's the basic structure?
It's a 3 week revolving thing that I would do. So one Wednesday I'm going to squat heavy, and then the next Wednesday I'm going to deadlift heavy. The next Wednesday after that I'm going to do heavy rack pulls and probably deadlift for reps. I'll do 500 for 20 to 25 reps right after the rack pulls. And then I just rotate that around and put other things in. So like the day I squat, I might do Zercher squats the following week and do leg press on the day I squat. And then do something light like stiff-legged deadlifts for my hamstrings.
Sure. Yeah, you just kind of, in a 3-week rotation, rotate everything around. And so then and the weekends are basically, it's like you're going to have like an overhead event day and some moving events on each of those?
Yeah, like an upper body day. So if I'm getting ready for a strongman contest, I'll do my overhead event first. Mm-hmm. If I'm not, I go back to, since like the off season I've been powerlifting a lot, I go back to doing the bench first. Like last week I went up to 545 on the bench and then came back down and did seated log presses, but on a straight bench, so no back support, with like 200 pounds for a couple sets of 10, just trying to work that balance and strict overhead press strength.
Sure, yeah. So you put emphasis on what's coming up and then use the other as an assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
exactly.
It's a question that I see a lot, is how to combine powerlifting and strongman, and that's a really simple way to do it. Is when you're peaking for that show, you make one, the assistance lift, and one the main lift, and vice versa. So yeah, good way to do
it. Getting ready for a powerlifting show, my biggest thing is getting back to depth. Getting back to regular squat depth. It takes me about 3 to 4 weeks to get my ass all the way down, but once I do, I'm fine. And I just got to get my hips loose enough for me to sit. And once I do that, The one in April that I did, I think I trained 6 weeks for it, 5 weeks, right around in there, and hit the 843 pretty easy. So that beat Lilliebridge Senior out of the all-time squat in the 308, the raw one.
You broke some Masters world records. I think pretty much everything but the bench. I think.
Yeah, on the world records, I broke the American record in all four: the squat, the bench, the deadlift, and the total. And then I broke the all-time record in the squat with 843, the dead at 810, and the total at 2172. I benched like 518 because I had a sore pec and didn't push it. All three of them, I just drove right through it.
Yeah,
but it was fun. I hadn't been on a platform in 15 years, so not bad for 15-year layoff of powerlifting.
Yeah, it's like you didn't lose anything. It's like
actually no, I totaled 70 pounds more than I had totaled before I left powerlifting.
Well, that whole getting stronger thing kind of helps sometimes. So let's get into that. So you did powerlifting. How did the start in Strongman actually start? Like I'm sure you were aware of it, but then you actually found out that it's a thing on how to compete in it. How did you make that transition?
In 2003, Mark Philippi put on a contest at UNLV, and Mark and I had won nationals in 1996 that year in powerlifting and worlds. I was in the 275s and he was in the 319s, and we both live here in Vegas, and I went out to just check out the Strongman contest, and here's Carl Gillingham and Phil Pfister and John Anderson, and they're all competing in a Strongman contest, and I'm like sitting here watching, going, this looks pretty cool. And my son, who was 3 at the time, looks at me, Dad, you're pretty strong, you should do this, this looks fun. And I'm like, I think it's a good idea. So I started putting weight back on and went and did my first contest in 2004 at March Air Force Base in Southern California, and got middle of the pack, just not knowing any idea how to train for it or whatever else. Did 2 more shows, ended up turning pro, and been doing it ever since.
What was
I turned pro the year before Brian Shaw at Van Hatfield's meetup in Utah in 2005.
And Brian went pro at that same contest the following year?
The following year, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember... Go ahead.
The following year, it was my first pro show, because I went through some custody battles and stuff with my son, and had to move from out by the lake to in Las Vegas, and got that straightened out. Then that became my first pro show, and first met Jesse Marundi there. He was with Dawson at Van's house out in the backyard. Mm-hmm. It was pretty cool.
Because back then they had the whole pro-am set up.
Yeah, right? That was really cool. They should actually do that now.
I always say that. I like that setup because it really, really shows if that person is actually ready and where they stack up. It's not like, oh, well, is that person going to, like they turn pro and a lot of these people you never hear from again, or they, a lot do well, but some don't. But if it's a pro-am, you kind of, like if he got last at the, sometimes they'll beat a couple pros, but you kind of go like, yeah, he's not quite there. But
well, in Kokomo, the month before that, the month before Van Hatfield's contest, I went to Kokomo and did Chad Coy's contest, and I can't remember the name of the guy that won, but he won. He got his pro card and he disappeared. The 2 of us beat all the pros that were in the contest.
Yeah. So you're like,
never saw him again, and I missed my pro card by 1 point. He pulled the deadlift on the car with like 1 second to go, and I'd pulled 8 with the car, moving into second place. If he wouldn't have pulled it, I would have won. But he pulled it. More power to him. He beat me.
Sure, but
he got his pro card and disappeared, and I went a month later, and I was just doing it to get more experience, and ended up winning.
Yeah, I really like that pro-am setup. And plus, it gives more opportunity for like the newer pros to actually compete.
any of the pros, not just the newer pros.
Yeah.
It's more of an opportunity to compete in your own country without traveling all over the place.
Sure, which is one of the hassles. There's just it seems like it's building back up where there's more shows starting to again, but for a while it was like there was like one pro, like it seemed like there's like America's Strongest Man and maybe one or two others for guys like you to do in the United States a year.
Right.
But it seems like
there's more people starting to put stuff on, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Mullen's starting to do stuff with Giants. Kind of picked up where I had to leave off.
Right.
And actually took it to the next level. He actually got the Giants show here in the U.S. Dion's doing better. She's got more stuff going on, especially with all the Arnolds and the things she's going there. It is getting better for places to go to compete. Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed like for a couple of years there was some dark years, but it seems like it feels like it's on the rise again.
Yeah, it seems to be. Like I'll just keep plugging along until I get bored with it, I guess.
Yeah, well,
but
as an athlete, that's pretty much all you can really do. Like, even though you can do more, like you promoted the Sin City shows. I went out to one of them with Obi, and that's how he ended up, then qualifying for Giants Live and all that.
Yeah.
Through so you guys did your part too. But so how, and speaking of things seem to be getting better. It seems like your competing and training has gotten better this year. Like you had a rough couple of years. It's a rough sport. It's really easy to you get banged up and it's hard to come back from some. And you had some close breaks. But this year you looked like you're the best you've been. How what was the change that happened?
Well, one, I've really paid attention to my body a lot more. And I tell people all the time, if you don't feel like you're ready, you shouldn't go.
Yeah.
It's better to take an extra day's rest and train hard tomorrow and not break. Because if you once you break, then you're about healing. You can't progress. Your training can't get better. So I've done a better job at not getting hurt. About 2.5 years ago, I got hurt at the Fed Expo on that wheelbarrow. When the wheelbarrow snapped off, when the handle came off, and it was like 900 pounds in the hands, and it just sent me flying, and it popped my back out of alignment and really gave me a muscle imbalance from my left to right side that it took me forever to figure out how to get it back solid again. I mean, every time I'd start pulling really heavy again, I'd pull too much with one side of my body over the other, and I'd re-injure it and re-injure it and re-injure it. And I did get very good at training with injury, but I finally figured out a way to get it solidified and get both sides back strong again, which, it was great. I mean, it's weird the things you learn just by accident, but I figured out how to stabilize it. And then I got a massage guy I go to at least every 2 weeks that's really good here. I see, Doc whenever I get a chance when I'm at one of the contests that he's at. Dr. Todd. I mean, but all these things make a difference. You're a professional athlete, even though we might not get paid like our professional athletes that are football players, but you're still a professional athlete. You still got to learn how to take care of yourself all the time.
Yeah. Even 30 years into it.
Even 30 years into it. The way I'll sit in a chair. I won't sit at a bar stool that doesn't have a back on it. I won't sit in. If I can't sit comfortably, I won't sit in the spot because, sitting too long in an uncomfortable position, it'll throw my back out. So you'll see me a lot of times at contests. I just sit there and stand. I don't sit very often at contests because of that. But as long as I do that and I don't knot up, I'm fine.
I actually had very similar issues, which I feel like I'm just getting a handle on, where I had imbalances where it just, no matter, then you're just like, oh, and like the, last 2 years I was competing, I wasn't really training to get better. I was training around injuries to stay the same, which
Right.
it doesn't really work. And then that's what I feel it found, because I had a job where I was driving like 1,200 miles a week in a truck and then sitting at a desk, and I think that's what really did it. It was just like leaning to the side, and a lot of that I was, driving around fields where I'd have to be like looking out windows and just sitting like that. And then once there's one problem, then you're in a bad position like that. It just makes it worse and worse and worse. So yeah, and it's just,
absolutely.
So what did you do to actually stabilize it and get it fixed side to side, other than, like you said, getting worked on by Dr. Todd and massage and all that?
The massage guy did a lot of it because I had things that were now no longer flexible that needed to be flexible and move. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of stretching and a lot of deep tissue massage while we're stretching. And then I also started working on my core and my abdomen again, doing a lot of side bends and stuff, especially to the side that was weakened, strengthening my obliques in that area.
Sure.
And it really made a difference. I mean, we're strongmen. It really doesn't matter if we have a trim and tapered waistline. It matters is we can pick the stuff up. So I started training the hell out of my obliques again, and then just doing a lot more stretching on my off days. I even though I tell people to do it, I never really did it that much. Now I'm a lot more disciplined with it, and I do a lot of stretching on my off days, and all that put together, really, it just came together this year.
Yeah, and you've had a great year. So it pretty much this year started. I think what would the first contest be would be the Fit Expo you did. Let's go through everything you accomplished this year.
Well, went through the Fit Expo. That was a little strange of a contest for me, because if you just did the Arnold events, you couldn't make any money.
Right.
And you can't just do the Strongman events because he doesn't have a separate just Strongman thing. I don't want to moss wrestle because I see a lot of injuries to guys there, so you lose points there. A couple of the grip events, if you don't know how to do them right, you will lose a lot of points on. And then I chose to skip the first event, which was the frame carrying the tire flip, because I wanted to have a really good deadlift, against Mikhail. And it kind of threw me off in the points, but the yoke was great. The loading medley was great. I mean, the contest itself and the Strongman events were fantastic. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, just the odd stuff like a silver bullet hold or whatever. They're just...
Yeah, the pinch thing where you try to hold on to the silver bullet. Yeah, those shouldn't count for points in a strongman contest. I'm sorry.
No, that's a grip event. But yeah, so you look good on the traditional strongman events, and then
I had the best probably overhead pressing medley I'd done. I motored right through the thing, had no problems with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then after that, I did the powerlifting meet where I broke the squat record, the deadlift record, and the total record, which was unbelievable. I mean, it was so much fun doing that. It got overall best lifter. It was in that contest. It was a lot of fun. I hadn't done a powerlifting meet in forever, and now I want to do both. So it's kind of weird picking your schedule for the next year, and then coming into giant, which was great because it helped my deadlift a lot, and building the explosiveness with my legs a little bit more with the heavy squats again, and then going out to Indiana, and Indiana was a rough contest.
It was so hot.
It was unbelievably hot, and it was humid. So it's not like hot here in the desert in Las Vegas. It was hot, and I remember just trying to pound fluids. The night before, I drank a bottle of Pedialyte. I drank one right when I woke up in the morning. I drank another one right as the competition got started, and I was probably the only competitor, I think, that didn't have any cramps whatsoever.
You had I watched the live stream because I was reporting on the events for Flow Elite, who does the live stream. And what was the event where it's like you couldn't? I remember like you couldn't uncurl your hand after the frame or something. It was like I was like, I heard some people said you went to the hospital. There's like all these rumors started flying. I was like,
actually,
kind of scary.
right after it was. Dimitar actually cramped up trying to get into the frame.
He couldn't even get.
He couldn't. No. I did the frame and I tore the calluses off my hand, and on the right side, like in the middle and on the side of it. And I remember just like sitting here trying to hold my hand to where, it really didn't hurt, but it took a second. I was dizzy when I got done with the frame because we were going fast too.
Yeah.
I mean, because of the live stream and everything else, we didn't get a lot of time to rest. And I remember I wasn't cramping and I wasn't like losing it because I couldn't catch my breath, but I couldn't cool off. And between events, we'd throw a icy cold towel over me, trying to get my temperature back down. And right after the frame, I remember I was really dizzy. I went to the side. I started getting the towels and stuff put on me, and I'm trying to like cool off and calm down my breathing. And one of the guys that were working on the setup goes down with heat stroke. They took him to the hospital.
Okay.
So somebody did go to the hospital. Somehow my name got put in there. I'm like, no, I'm perfectly fine. I'm sitting right here. But when he went down, it bought us an extra 15 to 20 minutes. I went and got in someone's car and turned on the car and turned the air conditioning on full blast. I got out of the car and I felt great. And I went up and I was just killing the stones to the last one. I put my hand in somebody else's tacky and it slipped. I spun it, picked it back up, and threw it right up.
You did enough, and you won. There's a lot of good names there. Mark Felix.
Yeah. Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry was there. Devon. I think people underestimate. He's pretty good.
Dude, Devon's really good.
Yeah, especially everyone's good. But I think people. I don't think people know how good he is. Like, I saw a lot of people predicting. I'm like, Derek's going to do good at this show, especially, home turf and everything.
Yeah. Well, he just destroyed the medley.
Yeah, he's so fast on stuff like that.
Him and Brian, they both were just flying with the medleys. I was like, wow, okay, guys.
Shit, I got to really work.
I still did pretty good in the medleys, so I wasn't complaining too much.
Yeah.
But, that day was all about just trying to stay in the top 3 in the events. If you did that, you had a good shot.
That's generally a good rule. If you can get top 3-ish, you're gonna have a good time because eventually someone stumbles. Of course, we can't talk about worlds too much.
No.
For obvious reasons. I don't want to get you in trouble here. I don't want to get in trouble.
You won't get in trouble. They'll be mad at me, but not you. I'm the one who's answering the question.
That's such a change because I get in trouble plenty. So. But you went. It looked like a good time. It wasn't. I think the conditions seemed a little better than past years.
The conditions were probably some of the best I've actually competed in. The weather was great. It wasn't too cold. It wasn't too hot. I mean, everything. It was just. It was a lot of fun to do. I was in the thick of things all the way through. Mm-hmm. Even going into the stones, if I would have done all 5 of the stones, I would have made it to the finals.
Sure.
So, I mean, the only thing that I didn't like was the Viking press, but there's a big shocker.
that darn press.
Well, yeah, I think it was a little heavier than what they told everybody.
Well,
it was probably closer to 374 instead of 330.
That's strongman, and I feel like everything's always in a range, Like people, there's like everything can kind of be like, even let's say like a 20 kilo difference between what's actually going to be, what they say something's going to be, and what it will be. And what seems the weirdest is that that gets worse and worse the higher the level the contest goes, it seems.
Yeah, but they never err on the side of it being lighter 20 kilos. They always err on the side of it being 20 kilos heavier.
or the athletes just don't want to admit when it is. They're like, oh yeah, that 150 kilos felt light. I hit a PR. No one wants to admit it was actually 130 that time or whatever.
Yeah. But 5 weeks later, I go to the a different type of Viking press, but there's still a Viking press in Doncaster. And I did 14 reps with 319.
Did just have so that kind of shows that the off.
And then, it's funny because Mark comes off, he does 14. I'm like, dude, I can't get away from you. But Eric from down in, Eric Patterson, who's a really good overhead presser, he only did 11. He's a better overhead presser on the log and the axle and everything than I am. He got 11, so go figure.
Sometimes it comes down to experience on stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
You guys, you got all those tricks. You've been doing this for a while.
True, but Jerry's got a Viking press in his gym.
Yeah, maybe
I don't have one here.
Maybe he just doesn't listen. It's always bad. You always have that training partner where you're like, you should do it like this or that, and
right. Oh yeah, I've had more than a few of those.
For sure.
Probably the hardest thing about new training partners is getting them to realize that you only need 3 days a week. I need to go do more. I go, no, you don't. That's how you get hurt. We're lifting really heavy. For what you are, you're lifting very heavy for you. You need this rest. If you don't get the rest, you're going to break.
Yeah.
But as things progress, they figure it out pretty quickly.
After a couple
I went to the gym. Or just they're exhausted when they come back. They're just like, man, I go, because you're not healed all the way. You went to the gym in between, didn't you? Yeah. I'm like, well, you got to recover. If the muscle doesn't recover, it doesn't grow. The rest is actually more important than the workout.
Yeah, I feel
get it straight.
Especially the further advanced you get, because you are handling more.
Okay, the older you mean the advanced age you get and you get older? Yeah. Thanks you for being polite, not calling me an old man. It's okay.
And just strength-wise, when you get you get all that old man strength too. That's really what it's about. But kind of both. It's okay.
I mean, as you get older, it's your flexibility that you lose. As long as you can stay flexible, you're fine. That's the thing I've had the hardest time with, is losing mobility.
Just being able to get in the position.
Yeah, so that's why I got the massage guy and I do a lot more stretching now. Made a big difference this year.
That's why I feel like kind of not your like stereotypical strongman and stuff like Martins has done so well this year, is because he's so mobile and he's so athletic, and he's also really young. He's like 24, that he's able to just get in these good positions. He might not have like the brute or static strength of some of the guys, but he's he doesn't lose his powerful positions to do the stuff
all the time. Yeah, and the kid's got no off switch either.
No, that's always.
I mean, he'll go till he literally breaks. It's like, dude, stop. This is not an important show. No, I want to go. Okay, dude. Here, I'll help coach you through the rest of this show. That's what we did up in Canada, and he got second up in Canada. I was just like, we're going to Worlds in like 5 weeks. You need to settle down. Whoa. I'm like, okay, all right. You want to go after it? Let's go after it. Yeah. And just kind of coached him through the show and taught him a few things as we were going, and he did really well. He does take coaching very well.
He seems to pick things up really quick. I've known Martins for a while. Actually, I remember in their fashion, like him and his best friend Sean, they were just for like nationals, amateur nationals in 2000. I think it was 13. They just like posted like 3 out, like the day before, like not even the day before everyone showing up, like, hey, we're going to be at the airport, which was like an hour and a half away from where we're going to actually compete. Can anyone give us a ride? And I was like, well, my flight got in like an hour after theirs, so I did, and I was giving them a ride up, and it was weird because they both said they were fasting for 24 hours, and neither one of them was cutting weight. Like, they're like, Martinez was like, I just feel much stronger, and like I was like, what the fuck? Who are you? What are you doing? and
I'm pretty sure he doesn't do that anymore.
Yeah, he was also about 240 pounds at the point. And you know, you hear it all the time. He's like, I'm gonna go to Worlds, and yeah. And then I was like, you could probably go pro as a middleweight, as a 231 if you tried. He's like, nah. And I'm like, all right. But then, like 2 years later, he does. It was one of the times I'm like, I really got that one wrong.
But a lot of potential. He's going to be really good for a long time. He just needs to not compete as much.
Sure. So
if he keeps it between 4 and 6 a year, he's going to be devastating, and he'll just keep getting better. These guys that compete constantly, they do really well for about 2.5 years, and then they start breaking.
Yep. It's it's like you have a certain reserve, and then once you get past it, you're done, and then it's just so hard to come back once you get injury, and then like you said, you're just constantly coming back. You're not training to get stronger, you're training to get back where you were.
Mm-hmm.
And you
see it, and you see the guys do it. There's been at least 3 or 4 guys in the last year, that keep getting hurt. Dimitar keeps getting hurt. He just tore his bicep, a month and a half, 2 months, 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, and then competed like last weekend.
Yeah, and did well.
Yeah, he got third.
He did well, but it's just not a type of contest you want to go into being off. And Brian's there, so it's basically who's getting second anyway. But
sure.
He is the GOAT.
Oh yeah.
There is nobody that will be better than Brian, or has been better than Brian.
So
there's not.
You think right now he's the greatest strongman of all time?
All time, without a doubt. He will do any event. Any event. They've taken. Where's the manhood stone at the Arnold, and why isn't it there?
Because the bale tote's so exciting to watch.
Because what?
Because that bale tote is so exciting to watch. All the people want to see it. That's
not the reason it's not there. It's because someone else can't do it.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. But everyone wants the manhood stones back. I'm not a fan of that yoke event at the Arnold. I think that's.
Well, I'm a fan of the yoke event, but take the Arnold should actually go back to 6 events like it used to be. Mm-hmm. Not have 5. It needs to go to 6, and the bale tote should stay in. Okay. It's just the straps need to come off the frame. Yeah, the yoke and the frame with straps are the same goddamn event. If you don't have a grip to get to the top of the frame, to get to the top of the thing, you don't have the grip to get to the top. You need that. It's a good test of grip. The handle on it's thinner than a normal handle anyway. It's not a normal sized handle when you grab a hold of that thing. So, it's easy to hold on to. I never got to do it in the year that it was light, except for the first year, and my back was hurt, so I could barely pick the thing up.
So, I was going to ask you, does it feel different, like, from the ramp where the pressure is getting put in your hand? But you said you haven't.
Carrying the frame up the ramp isn't that bad. The smartest thing you can do is wear shoes with heels on them, like Olympic lifting shoes, because it takes some of that angle away, and as you're stepping going up the frame, going up the ramp. Huh. I told Hoff to wear that, but not this last one, but the one before. I told oh God, I'm doing good today. I told Volley that. Volley told Thor, and Thor wore his Olympic shoes up the platform. He just absolutely crushed the gun.
Yeah, he did good that year.
It takes that little bit of pressure off your calves as you're going up, to where you can still accelerate going up the ramp.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So for all those future Arnold Classic competitors that are listening, they'll know. But yeah, you're good at giving out that advice to your competitors. I remember before the dumbbell event, you're like, I told Mikkel how to do that. He just beat me. When you were giving him advice on, that wasn't what happened. Yeah, we won't go there. Never mind. It was someone else. We'll skip over that.
Yeah, don't worry about that. We'll move on from there.
Sure. Anyways, yeah. So it seems like that's a trend in strongman where they're like the events seem to be getting like there's less and less events per like these big contests. Like they cut the Arnold from 6 to 5. Like it seems like
it's time constraints.
Yeah, Worlds used to be seems like it was like 7 events before, and now it's less. So
I would like to see the format to Worlds just completely change in general. It'd save them a lot of money too. I mean, just put 12 events out there and have all 30 guys do all 12 events over 4 days. It
would look more similar to the CrossFit Games that way, how it's structured in a way. There's about I think there's they have more events total. You're doing the same events. It's just like half of them don't end up counting in the end. They only count to qualify for the next thing. Yeah, I'd like that. It would be, and then you could have multiple tests, and you're going to see who's more well-rounded overall.
Right. And then you don't have also 10 production days?
Yeah.
You have 4 production days. They'd save a ton of money.
I wonder if it's just that they like to package the finals into that nice hour slot. That's probably what it has to be, but
yeah, but you can still package it the same way. I mean, it's 12 events. They package the 12 events.
Yeah, and I think the CrossFit Games is somewhere around that 12 event mark, and there's I think about 40, if not 45 men and women, on each side. So yeah, it would be similar, and they seem to be doing pretty well. So
yeah, they seem to be doing very well.
It's funny,
unbelievably well.
It's funny because they're on ESPN now, where Worlds got taken off of it, and it seems like from what I've heard, it's similar people at ESPN putting it together, and they're structuring it kind of more and more strongman-ish with some of the events because they're more exciting. So.
Right. I know. I'm like sitting there going, I think after I turn 50, I might switch sports.
Yeah, you could go do the Masters. I think their Masters actually starts at 40. But yeah, you could go there.
I go in the Open.
I'd really like to see you doing like toes to bars and a bunch of muscle ups and stuff.
Well, I'd probably be a hell of a lot lighter than I am now. But.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Mark Felix gave it a go last year, so I guess that's the thing.
Did he?
Yeah, he did the Open.
Yep. Wow.
Not just, it was kind of looked like something he just like, I'm going to do this day at the gym, and because other people.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think there was any training put into it specifically or anything. But
Mark's a freak. Mark is just a flat out freak. I mean, he really is. I've never seen somebody improve that much on events. His yoke was 10 seconds.
Yeah, he's gotten much better at the moving events like that.
I mean, his yoke was like 10 and a half seconds or something like that. I was like watching him go, and I was like, wow, okay.
So,
and then I just took off. I was just like, I got to go because Vetus is really good, and I got to put it out there. And I just went as absolutely as fast as I could.
So let's go a little more in depth at Masters World, because this is a big deal. I think this is I believe this is the first year that official Strongman Giants Live has put one on recently. Like there's been some other Masters contests from other federations.
This is the first Masters World's Strongest Man recognized by IMG.
Yes. So it's like, which is IMG, for people that don't know, they're the people that put on World's
They
Strongest
own
Man.
World's Strongest Man.
And so this one's like official because they own the trademark and all that stuff. So you had, like you said, 5 or so weeks to train for it. And, you and Mark Felix are basically just on the same planes everywhere with the same schedule for about 3 months there, going from this contest to that one. Just
from about 4 months, actually, but
You should have it's like you guys are living together, like it's the Odd Couple or something. That would have been a good show to pitch. So you got to compete there, and they're hyping up this whole, Best versus Mark Felix. You cut a nice promo.
For that World's Strongest Man. Yeah.
But the whole time I'm looking at this, I'm like, both of you are really good, but I don't think anyone knows who Vitas Blakaitis is. He's also really good. He's just not really, been doing like Worlds and stuff again. He just kind of sits in Lithuania and goes and wins the log lift championship every year and does some shit.
Well, that's because you got Sojourner and Lalith.
Yeah. So he gets
it's kind of hard to get past those two. So
sure.
He gets pushed back. I mean, I remember him at IFSA Worlds. And I remember I've done IFSA Worlds twice too.
Yeah.
And I made the finals at IFSA Worlds too. And he was at IFSA Worlds in 2006 and 2007, but I think he was 4th at IFSA Worlds in 2006. And he won the yoke event there. I mean, he's really solid all the way around. He's a fierce competitor.
Yeah, I just felt like people were overlooking him, and he did really well, and it ended up being a nice contest between the three of you. So how did you did the Viking press, then the yoke, then I was following the women's side, and you guys did what, a car deadlift where
the van deadlift. Yeah, we picked up a van. So that's where I made my only. I feel like I only made one real mistake in the contest that was like stupid, and that was it. Was the deadlift. The Viking press, I got 14. Mark got 14. I think Rob Frampton got 14. And then, God, I forgot who got 16. God, I can see his face clear as day. And then Vitas did like 24 or something before he stopped.
Just blew it up.
Yeah. It's like, really? Okay. Keep going. No. After a while, you just go ahead. Tire yourself out, dude. You've got the thing won. Nobody's going to beat you. But we got through that, and there was like a 3-way tie for what should have been 3rd place, but they called it 4th. And then we went to the yoke. I got the yoke. Vitas got 2nd. Mark got 3rd. Then we went to the deadlift. Mark got 20 reps. I stopped at 17, and I heard 5 seconds left, and I knew he was a couple behind me. And I went, okay, he's not going to pull 2 that fast. And I let go of the implement. And then I watched him pull 2 more. I'm like, damn it.
you got to remember, he's not the tallest guy, so he can travel that distance a little quicker.
He's a little on the shorter side. So he pulled 2 more and we tied. I was like, okay, that's great. But I don't think anybody's really beaten him in the yoke.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be really fast in the frame, and he had to go before me in the frame. And he did. He picked it up, and he finished in like 10.74 seconds, which is fast.
It's quick.
And he picks it up, and he is just absolutely flying, with this thing. But it's wobbling as he's flying. And, you see it. It's moving. And he gets to the end, and he drops it. And when he's walking away, he's kind of moving his left arm a little bit. And I'm just like, But I'm worried about doing it next. So Mark and I go. Mark picks the thing up and just takes off. And I'm like, oh, my God. And I'm like coming behind him, and I'm finally starting to get up to speed and catch him. And he trips over his own feet because I have a video on my phone where somebody was filming to where you could see our feet. And he crosses his feet. And that's why I fell. If he wouldn't have crossed his feet, he would have probably beat Vitas' time.
Damn.
He drops it. I come past him. I finish in a little over 11 seconds. Mark finishes in 13. Vitas, I'm now 1.5 points ahead of Mark. going into the stones, and Vitas is 4 points ahead of me. You know, and Mark goes up, does the stones, does a screaming fast run.
It was cool.
Breaks the whiskey barrel. The whiskey barrel.
Yeah,
which was awesome.
For anyone that hasn't seen that, they need to go back, and the videos they're pretty much everywhere. But yeah, that was a great moment. And this is about when, you know, because this is streamed live, and, you know, I woke up at like 7 a.m. and then you guys were already doing stones. No offense, you know, I wasn't waking up at 3 in the morning. I'll catch the replay. So I'm like, you know, drinking some coffee, and I'm like, oh, like right when stones were starting. So I gotta, you know, watch all this live, which is cool that, you know, that's happening for the sport. And when he broke the whiskey, so I was a little groggy on like where the points all were, you know, because you're just waking up. But yeah, he broke the whiskey barrel. It was a great moment, and it's always you've been around enough strongman contests. When something breaks, everyone kind of looks around. They go, "Fuck, what do we do now?" Like,
no.
And then
that's what they did, and they were just figured out turn the barrel over.
I know there was like
whiskey went all over the stone. Whiskey went all over the floor. Vitas is looking at the floor, and he's kind of, what about the stone? The stone's all wet. And I'm like sitting here, and the good thing is the stone dried off pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is cool. We'll get the stone over here. They turned the whiskey barrel over. They moved everything 1.5 feet over towards the crowd more. And I was like, hey, put the bags on the other side so I can run through this side, because I don't want to run on where the whiskey is. And meanwhile, it smells like whiskey. And I'm getting hungry.
I didn't know that these. Well, that's kind of. You could probably tell you what variety it was, and every what type, what age, everything.
It was an Irish whiskey by the smell of it.
I didn't know that those were like real, still full of
whiskey barrels.
That's crazy.
I think they had water in them, and the whiskey just came through from the barrel from the stuff that had been aging in it.
Still drinkable.
Yeah, it's very, very. It smelled really good, that's for sure. So I just kind of get lined up. They let me take my time and get the stone. I made sure the stone was dry, and then I tackied the hell out of the stone.
Yep.
Where I grab it from the floor, and then I rolled it where I'm going to put my hands to do the pull up, and I put tacky all over there too, and I made sure when I touched it, I stuck to it so it wasn't like wet and slippery. And I went by and did all the stones on my way back, because, you know, if you're an amateur and you don't set your stones and don't put your hands on the stones where you want your hands to go before each one and get a little bit of tacky on the stone before you go, you're making a mistake. You should do that every time you run through stones.
Absolutely. Most implements just kind of, it's good to, that's something that people don't think about, all these little things, and these little things come down to who wins and who doesn't a lot of the time, is just how you have, you know, you set up a sandbag, how you have the, you know, that handle for a keg positioned, and knowing where you're going to move between each implement. There's a lot of time you can shape there just by being smarter. You don't even have to be any stronger. You can get a little smarter instantly in this sport.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a long time to actually get stronger.
Well, they got mad at me at Worlds because I turned all my sandbags. They wanted the numbers facing out. I'm like, nope. I turned them all. This is how I'm picking them up. This is how I want them.
And you talk about
the numbers. I go, I don't care about that.
Yeah. You care about, you know, making the finals and winning that event.
Yeah.
And you know, when you go to like you'd say the greatest of all time, Brian Shaw. I don't think there's anyone who's more meticulous about all these details. He's out there with like protractors and a measuring tape and a notebook, and he could tell you the schematics of everything off the top of his head, I'm sure.
There's a cold plunge. They had a cold plunge in Botswana where we could go sit to like ice and stuff at the hotel. And that guy was methodically every day in the cold plunge after he got done competing.
Yeah, he's a machine like that.
All the way up to his neck. He's like, oh, you need to get in that far. I'm like, yeah, no.
It's not
no. 3 minutes later, I'm up to my neck. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I should do this. And I'm sitting there up to my neck, and I'm like, okay, it's really, really, really cold. But I felt a lot better. So
he
But I know he's got a hot tub. He's got a cold tub at his house. Talk about somebody into physical therapy and take care of themselves. It's Brian.
For sure, yeah, he leads the way. So, back to the stone run. You got everything set up.
So I got everything set up, and I just started tearing through the run, and probably had one of my best stone runs ever. Had a little bobble on the third stone, but not bad. Loaded the fourth one right up, and it was 21 seconds, so it was a little bit slower than Mark's. And I was still a half a point ahead after that. I'm like, okay, as long as Vitas doesn't get between us, and there's not even a full second between us, I'll at least be second place. So it'll be okay. I mean, still did really well. And Vitas is still moving his arm kind of weird. And I'm standing there, and he gets ready to go, and he picks up the first stone, and he's got to load all 5 because so many guys loaded all 5. And his first one didn't look very fast or very strong. And we're like, okay. He gets to the next one, and it looks even worse. And I'm like, that's only 120 kilos. He grabs the 140 and drops it. We're like, what the hell? He grabs it again and drops it and reaches up and grabs his arm, and it's just shaking his head. I'm like, oh, my God. He tore his bicep off. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
It was.
Oh, my God, I just won. So I'm like, oh, my God, he tore his bicep off. That's horrible. Oh, my God, I just won. And I felt so bad for him because of what he's been through with Sojournus and Lawless and, him being the third guy out there. This would be a big deal for him. And I felt so bad for him. And yet at the same time, I'm so elated that I won. It was really emotional, really strange feeling that way. I was elated that I won, but I felt awful for him. And then Terry just looks and goes, mate, you pushed him to the breaking point on a couple of these events today, and he broke. So you're the strongest guy here today. Enjoy it. And I kind of relaxed and kind of was like, yeah, and thanks, Terry. So it was pretty cool. It was neat having Terry and Grant Hicks there, Graham, judging and stuff like that too. It was neat having the guys there.
And Sadler, yeah,
And Sadler.
It's a tough.
Sadler always comes up to me and smacks me in the back of the head. What are you here for? I go, to win. He's like, don't forget it. He did the same thing to me in Indiana because I'm like, I just need to breathe. I just need to cool off for a minute. He goes, no, you need to win. Remember, what are you here for? I'm like, good point.
Nice.
And it's just refocus and go.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. It's you worked so hard, and it's something you've always wanted. That's a huge accomplishment to win, but you're like an injury kind of happened. But the way you could see it is he could have tore his bicep in the frame, and it could have ended up being the same overall outcome, and you wouldn't feel the same way about it.
Right. Which I think that's what he actually did. I think he actually tore it a little bit in the frame, and it just came off on the stone. Yeah,
because I was watching, and from the angle that Flow Elite was showing on my television was right towards, it was the side where the bicep tear, and I saw him pick it up and drop it, and you could see it just curl up a little bit. It wasn't even the heaviest stone. It wasn't, so there had to be some pre-existing trauma, or a partial tear for sure before that. And like you said, his first couple stones were kind of gingerly picked up too.
Right.
So, like Terry said, at the end of the day, you won. You earned it. You worked really hard to get there, and it was fun to watch. It was, it's fun to see the level that everyone's at, even at Masters being so competitive. Was there any competitors that most people wouldn't know that aren't, former World's Strongest Man, IFSA, World Championship competitors that were competing at Masters that impressed you, or just, people should kind of watch out for?
Yeah. God, good grief. Now I got to remember the guy's name.
Putting you on the spot.
But he took off at the frame.
Was it the guy that was jeans?
Yeah. That dude's freaking hardcore.
Yeah.
I was just like, and he's not that big.
No,
I mean, He was probably 260, 270 maybe, and just bolted with the 900-pound frame. We're just like sitting here going, holy cow, that's 920 he's walking with in his hands.
Is it
John, 925.
John Pollock?
Yeah, John.
Yeah, he was fun to watch in every event. I went back and rewatched him. You know, he's out there. He just looks like some dude that's just like a big construction guy, and he's just, you know, showing up, real blue collar.
Yep, just almost like an older version of
Burke.
Mike Burke.
Yeah.
Almost like an older version of Mike Burke, just unbelievably ungodly strong construction worker.
Yeah. I feel like Mike Burke is like he's like the example for like the manly man, just like doesn't care about anything. Like you just have the posters like you know, like Paul Bunyan. He's just like, he's that guy. Like I'm a big fan of Mike Burke as far as that. It's just like, it just seems like it just all came natural and he had fun doing it the whole time. But you know, really appreciate you coming on. Like I was planning to.
No problem.
This flew by. We've been talking for over an hour here, so I'm sure let you get back to Kalle before she yells at me and yells at you.
No, she's not going to yell at you. And
I'm kidding.
I'll make sure she behaves. Sort of. Okay, maybe not. She's staring at me.
I don't think you have control over that, Nick. No. You could be the strongest master in the world, but making sure.
Yeah, I got about zero control over that, I think.
But that's what makes it fun, right?
Yeah, it does.
Keeps life interesting.
She's probably, she keeps me on. She definitely keeps me on. Keeps me on my toes.
If people want to keep following your training, I think they can, you know, follow you on Facebook. It's Nick Best and Nick Best Pro Strongman, and your Instagram handle is, I think, what, Powerlifter?
Powerlifter 2 Strongman. I'm going to see if I can change that. I might just try to get back to putting my name on that, but I'll see if I can do that.
Yeah, I'd recommend, and that's with Powerlifter with the number 2.
Yeah, but, Powerlifter, the number 2, and then Strongman.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it'd be a good move to just, you know, be Nick Best Works. People know who that is. You've accomplished enough to not need a, you know.
Couple things.
Yeah.
You know, here's something people probably don't know. Who has the first 800-pound drug-tested squat in California ever?
I wonder, is it Nick Best?
Yeah, it's me.
So
the bench press record.
When did you do that?
The bench press, 96.
96.
1996.
Jeez.
The bench press record is still there. Somebody beat my squat record. Somebody beat because I was the first person to total over 2,000 pounds too.
In California.
The bench record though is still there. It's not CT Fletcher's. It's mine, and it's still there.
So CT does not hold the California.
No, because NASA back then, to do a drug testing, you just signed your name.
I like that. That system works, you know. Like.
Yeah, not at all. Meanwhile, the old ADFPA, I got out of contest tested 3 different times. They showed up my door and knocked.
Even back then?
Even back then.
Yeah, see, the problem I have with that is, like, a lot of the UFC guys are going through that now where they're getting woken up at, like, 6 in the morning, but at least they're getting paid. Like, if you're knocking on my door at, like, at 6 in the morning asking me to pee in a cup and I'm making no money off this, I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah, well, usually it was they give you a phone call and you have to stay where you're at till they come find you. It's not at 6 in the morning.
Okay.
Most of the time it was in the early afternoon. Hey, where are you going to be for the next 2 hours? I'm like, right here, I guess. And they come and they go into the bathroom and they actually watch you pee into the cup.
That part sounds okay.
Yeah, it's a little strange, but they watch your urine go into the cup.
What a job to have. Let's just let's all be thankful we don't have that job.
Yeah, no kidding. But it was the referees that were doing the tests.
Huh.
So if you were a referee, you were able to administer a drug test.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if people knew that from back then.
Huh.
But
crazy.
I don't know how it's done now because I don't compete in USAPL anymore.
Sure. So one last question. What was it that made you want to do another powerlifting contest?
I don't know. I've just been to a couple out here. Brandon's training at his place, Brandon Allen, and I just kind of, what's that? Yeah, he's got his gym at Filthy Power.
Yep.
And I'd been in there doing squats and just training and stuff, and just kind of went, you know what, it'd be kind of fun to do this again. I think I can get to a couple. And he was like telling me what the records were, and I was like, I think I can get to a couple of these, and sure, and I got to 3 of them.
Yeah, you're like, well, you did it. Now what do? You just make them more and more out of reach.
Yeah, well, no master's ever squatted over 9 or deaded over 9.
So
raw.
So those are the next goals. So that was going to be
those are the next goals.
My next last question is, what's next?
What's next? There's a powerlifting meet here November 10th. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to use that as a training day to get ready for the Fit Expo. And I'm probably going to end up doing the powerlifting meet at the Fit Expo this year.
And not the Strongman?
And not the Strongman. As of right now, that's the way it's looking.
Sure, but things are always subject to change. Well, good luck in that again. Yeah. Really appreciate you talking to us. You can also your website is Nick Best Strongman. Hit Nick up on Facebook, follow him on Instagram. I'm sure you already are. And thanks for talking to us, and good luck. Looking forward to watching you. I think they said World's Strongest Man is going to be on CBS Sports on
Thanksgiving.
Starting on Thanksgiving. So get the family, check it out, and then you can actually see what happened there. And
picking up cars and stuff.
All that fun stuff. It's great talking to you, Nick. You have a good day.
Good talking to you.
And I'll
All right,
talk to you soon.